So, trick question. How is Burning Man different than a non-permitted event? It is a permanent event. Exactly. And because it's a permanent event, we can't just dig holes in the dirt and poop in it. Because it's a permanent event, we also can't just funnel water from a spring and provide drinking water to everyone. Because it's a permanent event, it's not okay for everyone to get giardia. And although that's sort of kind of reverse engineer, come with me to the other side, which is to say that we sign an agreement with the federal government, and we say that we're going to protect the environment. And in this case, environment is defined not just as the Black Rock Desert, not just as our surrounding communities, not just the impact of transportation to and from the event, but it's actually also the public health and safety of the population. And so when we look at the regulations that are in place to protect environmental health at the event, you as theme camp producers and organizers need to know what these regulations are because you're camping and coming to the Black Rock Desert underneath our larger permit umbrella. So bear with me because this is the first time I've given this talk, but I'm trying to make the point that we can very easily protect the environmental health of our campers and of our population. So I looked up giardia, and it has to do with like unsanitary water conditions, yeah. And on Playa, we actually have a health department. It's the Nevada State Health Department. And they're there to make sure that food is served and prepared safely. And their number one talking point is about hand washing stations. Wash your hands. The health department is actually quite cool if you, they don't write citations, but if you are serving more than 125 persons food that you've prepared yourself, or in your, let me clarify. If you have a kitchen and you have a theme camp that is not, and your kitchen is not feeding the general public, but it's feeding 125 persons or more, you need a food permit. If you are serving the public any food, any amounts of people, you also need a health permit. Now, you don't need a health permit if you're serving alcohol, or if you're passing out prepackaged little pretzels. But if there's any part of your team that is touching the food, the health department wants to make sure that you have a hand washing station. And the way that it works is it's pretty simple. Pre-event, you apply. It's $50 to apply for a food permit. And then you have to, on Playa, show up at their headquarters, which is they set up during the week at Playa Info. And you need to pick up your permit. You need to tell them where you're at. And then they're going to come and they're going to visit and inspect your kitchen. They have been really easy to work with in terms of they're interested in giving feedback. They don't want to shut anyone down. They camp in the city, and we recommend that if you're serving food, you get a permit. Environmental impact, yeah. So if this was a non-permitted event, it would be totally fine to pee and dump your gray water on the playa. But because we have an agreement, I think so. I mean, we have an agreement. I do. I think it would be, no one would be looking. But here we care, and it's not okay. Not only does it violate our leave no trace, but it's also a health issue. And this is actually something that would get you a citation. So recommendation here is that you do not dump gray water, black water, or vehicle oil on the playa. And there's been, for the past 3 years, a team that consists of the Earth Guardians, Black Rock Rangers, and BLM scientists that have been traveling around in little carts to try and find potential issues and stop them and mitigate them before they actually turn into something larger. They have a 70% adjudication rate, but that last 30% is really up to you and your team's caring. The last thing I want to talk about is protecting the playa, specifically with vehicles and RVs. What we want to kind of focus on here is the main message of bringing a 5-gallon bucket. You know, if you have a bucket, then black water, if it's being pumped and there's a leak, you can catch it. If you have a fuel spill, then you can clean it up. If your fuel spill is actually bigger than the amount of than the 5-gallon bucket to fill it up and remediate it, then you actually need to call for help. So the 5-gallon bucket becomes a measurement standard for you around impact to the playa and when you need to escalate. Test your tanks. If you're picking up an RV, it should be filled with potable water, and your gray water and your black water tanks should be empty. But you should be able to look underneath your RV and you should see if there's a leak just in your potable water tank. And if you run your water for a minute and you stop it, then you'll be able to look under the RV and see if you have a gray water leak. Sorry. And if you flush your toilet 2 or 3 times, you're going to be able to look underneath and see if you have a black water leak. And those are the areas that we want people to be mindful of when they are bringing their RVs to the playa. The other thing is your fluids. The biggest culprit is going to be oil leaks from the engines of your vehicles, whether it's an RV or whether it's your own car. And so if you have cardboard or carpet that is secured to the ground, it'll just catch the hydrocarbon waste. And it's such a simple thing to do, and it's such an easy prevention method. The last thing is that you want to have a black water cap. When you get your RV, sometimes there's no cap. And so it's really important because if your black water is overflowing or it hasn't been pumped, a cap, well dialed in, will make sure that there's no leak. Okay. I have 1 more minute. And it's just to say that, you know, Burning Man takes our responsibility to the environment extremely seriously. And we would invite you all to do the same. Please join us. And I have some resources available if you have any questions around the health department and other environmental protection measures that are in place right now. Thanks.